So it's my main objective as we grow, whether it's a financial partner or whether it's, again, bringing on high-level people to the team, maybe one and the same, that we can keep our culture together through all of that, which is, it's no easy task. It's not lost on me. That's going to be very difficult at scale, but I'm up for it. And if I'm not, I'll be happy to bring in somebody else that can do it. Good morning, Matt.
Rick, good morning, sir.
So you're adjusting your microphone, as am I. I think my seat's riding a little bit low today.
I think you got my seat. I'm like really high.
Yeah. You're taller. How tall are you? 6'3"?
Yeah.
6'4"?
6'3".
Yeah. I'm like 6'1", 6'2".
So you're shrinking at that age.
My discs are losing their spacing. About 5'11". Once was 6'4".
When are you going to get a jazzy?
Soon. Actually. Pretty soon. I thought you called it a rascal.
It's just
I think
Southern
it's called a jazzy.
I don't know. Rascal might be something else.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'm at Walmart and I'm like, I'd like to sit down right now.
Yeah.
And drive this thing around. Right. So I'll get one.
Well, Chamberlain was telling me she's almost about ready because she's pregnant that she's going to start driving one around.
Oh, jeez. According to Chamberlain, she's the only one that's ever been pregnant.
Yeah.
She needs a jazzy.
Hardest thing somebody will ever do.
Oh, goodness. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Do you have a did you know, Matt?
I do. Did you know? First, the Mona Lisa, doesn't have eyebrows. But did you know why that is?
No.
It's actually because of cleaning it over time, they actually came off.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she did have eyebrows at one time.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought maybe there's like a thing. Maybe like, how different stages in history, like royalty did certain things. Like if you were like, overweight, it meant you had means. So like you see a lot of like super fat royal
She's
folks.
actually an alien.
Is she?
No, I don't know.
Right.
Is Mona Lisa like royalty?
No, I'm just saying like there's this weird, but maybe it was a tradition that she, that back then if a sign of beauty was to shave your eyebrows. I don't know.
Rock on. What you got?
Yeah. Okay. So mine is less interesting, but did you know during the Revolutionary War that George Washington stopped the war to return a lost dog to the enemy? Did you know that? So
wow.
He was a dog lover. Yeah. So imagine this. So a terrier of a British general was found wandering on the battlefield, and literally they wave the flag, and Washington calls a peace truce, a temporary truce, and then both sides stop shooting so he can return to the dog, to the British side, and then they just go back at it.
Is that where they got like Mel Gibson stealing the Great Danes and the Patriot?
It could be. I remember that. That was a good movie, by the way.
Awesome
yeah,
movie.
That was a great movie. Yeah. I don't know. It could be.
It's a different war back then,
Yeah.
It's okay to bring the dog back because you can't shoot anybody unless you're all lined up staring at each other.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
It's okay.
I know. It was weird. Like you just stand
It's the other
there
general. It's fine. Just bring
Can you
the dog
imagine
back.
just like march out there and take a knee and like just to wait for them to fire first and like hopefully you're not one of the guys that gets hit and then you fire and then you go to the back of the line. Yeah. It's like,
don't get hit by a cannonball. Yeah, it's great.
Well, I think, we learned a lot during that time from like Native Americans who didn't fight that way. It was like, all right, we're going to use like movement and ambush and cover and high ground and all the things, right? And it was seen as like a less than honorable way to fight, but like nowadays I'm like, please, dude, I'm coming out of the trees, booby traps everywhere. Dirty. I'm fighting dirty. It's the only way to do it. So what we are going to talk about today is where we're headed in the future. And it might sound kind of like a lofty topic, but we get this question a lot from candidates. So I think maybe if we created a piece of content that we could distribute to them, and if you're with Alloy already, maybe it would be some good insight as to like where we're headed and we're growing quickly and kind of what our long range plans are.
Yeah.
Of course, those could change, but I think as our lens on where we're going and how we're going to get there and what's important to us, I think is going to stay the same. And obviously, there'll be forks in the road and it might not look exactly like we describe it today, but it's where we're headed.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So, So long-term goals for Alloy are to have 800 locations awarded by 2030 in the lower 48, right? So just continental U.S.
Yep.
We've got some very advanced mapping software, as you know, and our runway is actually like closer to 950-ish, maybe more like 920. Now, and keep in mind, this is with very liberal search areas, right? And so like as you know, and people that listening might not know, if you have a large search area, we try to be liberal with the area so that you can find real estate, right? Now, once you choose a location, we drop a pin in the map. We'll give you a 30,000 person radius. Keep in mind, a healthy model is 130 to 150, clients. So 30,000 of a target-rich environment is plenty to have the business survive for a long period of time because our churn's not that high. So that really helps. Well, that being said, some of the search areas are so liberal that after those pins are dropped in the map, there's going to be sort of a B real estate play long term, where existing franchisees can probably backfill in some of their original search areas and get more, and or other franchisees will be able to go into those search areas. And as long as we're not stepping on toes, which we don't allow, right, meaning we keep protected radius, there might be more runway than that. So we think 800 is certainly doable. It's lofty, but doable. And keep in mind, that's just the lower 48. Doesn't include Hawaii and Alaska, which I'm sure we'll go to. It does not include any international projects, which, as you know, we've talked about. We already have some of those cooking because we have great international relationships. So those will be other things that we'll build in. But yeah, man, running and gunning. So I think when people are buying into a franchise, it's a 10-year agreement, and they're thinking like, where are you headed with this thing? And I think there's reasons why they ask that question, which we're going to get to. But I think, there's been some negative press around fitness franchising lately. There's a big franchise out that came from Australia that's been here for a while, and they went public, and then they really have fallen on hard times. They're getting offers now. I think their highest valuation, stock value, was like $2.5 billion or something. Now they're down to getting offers like between $200 and $300 million, which isn't chump change, but it's nothing like $2.5 billion.
Yeah,
and at danger of being pulled off the stock market for such a low stock value and taken back private. Right, by other enterprises. So maybe they reformulate and come back. But again, when you look at the reasons why, there was an internal funding arm of that company, and they were essentially trying to sell so fast that they were selling to, for lack of better terms, maybe less like unqualified individuals. And so when things happened with their internal funding mechanism, they just lost the ability to develop these locations, right? And so that really put a hurting on like how many more, locations people could open, because if you're not qualified to get traditional funding, you're kind of dead in the water, right? When you lose your internal funding. So probably speaks to the fact that like you probably should just sell to highly qualified individuals. And now there's a class action lawsuit from franchisees against the franchisor, and just all kinds of stuff's going on. I mean, it's a hard business, but like those things, I can't decide if those help us or hurt us at times, because it's like, oh, great. More people interested in fitness. There's less fitness out there now, gobbling up those eyeballs, but also I don't want it to taint the idea of a fitness franchise, right? So it's kind of like two sides to that coin.
Well, it's more than just fitness franchise and probably franchising in general, right? But that's why we always, what you're talking about, like we want to grow with integrity. So
100%.
Like 800, but find the right partners, put them in the right, give them all the chance to be successful.
100%. And I really don't want to do it any other way. Right? Like, I mean, look, you can talk about legacy. I get it. There's not like really long-term legacy. It's not like my great grandkids are going to be running this and your daughters are working here. I mean, maybe, but like at the same time, it's just about doing the right thing by the people that you're making these promises to, right? I would feel really bad for what we've seen in some other situations where you just sell, and you just leave a wake of like ruined franchisees. I don't
know how people do that, man. That's awful.
I don't know how you can do it. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand it at all. Yeah. I don't. So anyway, there's that, and that's a company that a lot of people have heard of, and I don't want to name names because I don't want to throw shade. So and there's another company that's like an overreaching company that has many brands under its banner, and they do gobble up a good bit of bandwidth in the fitness space, certainly in the consultant networks that we're in. And they've had some negative press lately that really affected. They went public as well about the same time F45 did, and they've really seen their stock value, affected by that too. And some of the claims were just like, again, who knows if they're true or not. It was done by a company that short sells. It's a short selling sort of stock mechanism. That's their play, and so of course it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're the source for bad information, and by the way, you're shorting a stock, like it's like, all right, well, what are we doing here? Are you driving the own? Who's driving what? Right, tail wagging the dog kind of idea. So, but that being said, it was a pretty damning report that came out. It was a lot of chatter about it at the last franchise conference that we were at, and so could be good, for us. Also, could taint us either way. But I think looking at those things, I could understand maybe why a candidate would be concerned, maybe not just fitness, but franchising overall. So I just wanted to address some of the common questions that we get, because in what I do as a CEO call, it's like a gatekeeping call to coming to kind of confirmation day, which is like the last step of the sales process. And a lot of people want to know, they know we're growing fast. And so they usually have questions about what that means, right? So first question I usually get is, can we support them? Like, what is our plan to support franchisees? And my answer is always this, like, we don't have to be fully staffed way ahead of this, as long as we stay ahead of it on a good cadence, right?
Yep.
So right now we are 140-ish sold, with a couple more coming through next week, and then a discovery day that's got several more potentials in it this month. We are 22 open, and we're on pace to have 50 open by year's end, right? Yep. That would put us at a little over 100 open by the end of 2024, right? So it's like, okay, cool. So we're moving along. And all I tell people is like, listen, we've got a lot of bandwidth from vendors like the Rep'em team. That's our defects sales team, right? But along the way, like we've got a ramp built. And in that ramp, we've got triggers that will tell us when to fill positions, right? So it's like, okay, Matt's the VP of all, studio operations. He's got a pre-sale team under him. He's going to have franchise business coaches under him. Right now, he only has as many as he needs. But as we go along, there's going to be triggers when you need to hire more. Good news is that the position is well defined. We just need to find the right, find the right person, and the person gets on the bus, and then we know the seat that they're supposed to be in, right? So it's not rocket science.
Yeah, I mean, you actually have it planned out. I bet there's lots of actual companies that don't even have a plan. They're like, we need somebody? Oh, yeah, let's get somebody.
Well, exactly. It's like we have these triggers along the way. It's like, hey, we need to start looking at another franchise, or we need to look at this position, or we need more support for this, or whatever those things are. So all I say is that, like, listen, there are functions in the business, jobs to be done, so to speak. We have a ramp framework set up to support franchisees. So can we support people, getting to that number? The answer is, of course. It's just going to be a lot more people, right? So, yes, first of all, we can definitely support you. We can currently support you with our staff perfectly. And then as we grow, we have triggers to hire more staff. So I think that's all people want to hear. Like, what's your plan to support us if you're going to grow quickly?
Yep.
Right? Got it. And I would have the same question. The next question that we often get is, will we sell at some point? And the answer is always, I don't know, right? It's hard to say, because by the time you're able to sell, you're in a good financial position such that you don't have to sell, right? Because it's just like any other business. You're going to get a multiple of EBITDA, right, in a business. And so once you reach a certain threshold of EBITDA, and you've got fast growth in front of that, you get a pretty high multiple of that. But what does that mean? Are you selling fully, like all of the shares? Are you selling partial? And if you do, is it a majority? Like, are you going to keep control, right? The people you sell to, are they going to bring franchise and operational experience to the table? Or are they just bringing money? That's a different animal, right? And those are all things that we have to weigh out as we get closer. So I will tell you this, when we talked about stats, before, and it's a rare few. I think it's only 15% of all franchises ever get more than 50 units open ever in their history. And there's around 3,800, and that kind of stays steady. At any given time, some drop off, new ones come on board, right, into the franchise world of all different types of franchises. So only 15% ever get 50 open. We'll be there by year's end, right? Now, by the end of 2024, we would have 100 open. Only 2% ever get 100 locations open. So, we often laugh at those stats because, like, we're working hard, and it's, someone asked me the other day, like, man, the franchise is growing really fast. Like, how does it feel? I'm like, you know what? It feels fucking awful. And I don't mean it bad, but, to give you guys some insight, like Matt and I were laughing about before, like Matt's like, yeah, I was up for like 3 hours one night. And I was like, all right, if I can craft this one message and get this to these certain owners. And I mean, it's just a lot, it's a lot of work, but I mean, to get in the top 2% of a very sophisticated business, what do you expect? Right? So the question is then, would we sell? And I think at some point, the only reason that we would sell right now, anything, and we won't do it right now, and I'll talk about kind of what our idea is, would be for operational support. Yeah. Like we need, if we needed bandwidth operationally, which means money to hire more people quicker, we would do it. Like if you look at LE Mental Health as an example, right? Now that's a brand that's under the same sales banner that we are. I know their founder, good guy. They actually sold 51%, so controlling stake, before they even had their first location open.
Wow.
Now, they had like 17 corporate stores, so they had good AUVs and enough like proof of concept, right? And they're in this wide open green space. There's, at the time, like no mental health franchises at all, and mental health is hot coming out of like COVID. It's like a popular thing to talk about. Everybody wants to address it, which is great. And so they sold like 400 and something locations without even opening one because sales were so brisk, right? So at the time they sold, I laughed, they didn't have any franchises open yet. They only had 2 employees.
Wow.
And they got a really high valuation. I won't talk about it here just for the sake of keeping it private for those guys. But they sold 51%. And within like 4.5 to 5 months, they now have 100 employees because they opened like 150 locations last year.
Imagine keeping that culture.
Well, exactly, right? So like I think that parlays into the next part of this is like, will we sell? We will definitely at some point take on a round of operational capital, and hopefully with a partner that, not hopefully, definitely with a partner that understands where we're going long term, that can work alongside us, keep our culture together. You know, like, again, you think about like going public, you're beholden to shareholders, you're making really short-term quarterly decisions. I don't want to be that guy, right? Same can happen in private equity comes in, they buy you, they change your culture. They want to build this thing like crazy and flip it in 4 years, right? To make their money back, make their investment. So, you know, it's an interesting situation. And so it's something that I've leaned heavily into. I've got plenty of friends that are in this space that can help me, right? That I do downloads with periodically. But it would be really good if we could make it to 100 locations open without any round of funding. That's just a goal.
I mean, hell yeah, that would be awesome. I think something that is really cool, and we don't really talk about it, is the fact that you've never taken any funding ever in 31 years of all the business ventures you've done.
I know, and I don't know that. I'm sure there's people hearing this. They're like, "What a dumbass!" Because that, like, leveraging debt to grow a business is not bad policy at all, right?
Sure. I mean, there's place for it, but it is. Like, it's different. First, like what you just said, 51% of your company, you know, gone.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like if you need it, get it, right? It's like it makes sense. But I think as we grow, you know, we would like to get to 100 open, which would be the end of 2024. I was listening to a really great podcast with an investor, and he basically said, it is so rare to have a franchise that's got really brisk sales, who gets 100 locations open with healthy franchisees, right, that are making the money they want and everyone's happy. He's like, that is a literal unicorn. So, you know, of course, when he says that, I'm like, we could be that. I mean, we could, you know, it's just a lot of work. Got to sell them, got to get them open, got to get them successful, right? All the things. But I would love to be in that status. I would love to be sitting in the seat where we were completely clean. There's no friends and family around. We didn't start out with VC money where there's expectations from that group. It's just Suzanne as a minority partner and me as majority partner. That's it. And you guys that are originally here. It's like, all right, well, that's who we are. And if we get to 100 and franchises are making good money, again, and our growth is well ahead of that, because 100 open probably means like 250 or more sold, right? Dude, we're a literal unicorn, right? And we're going to bring a really high valuation. So I think at that point, we will reevaluate. At that point, we would be royalty sufficient, which meaning all the royalties would cover all of our expenses. So we would be, you know, at least to break even, if not making decent money at that time. Probably way better than that, actually, at 100. But we'll be in a rare air. We really will. And so we'll reevaluate then. And I would like to say that we would do a minority round, right? So that we can maintain control and then throw some fuel on the fire operationally and keep going. But I think one thing that I'm committed to do, because a lot of people also ask, like, just parlay this right into the next question. So can we support you? Yes. Will we sell at some point? Probably. But I hope that gives an idea of what. And then people always say, because, you know, it's like me and I beat the drum and I'm passionate and everything. And like, what happens if you're not there? Like, what are you doing at that time? And I don't have any aspirations to not work. I mean, you know me, I love what we do. It's like, I can't imagine not working. I do not want to retire. I would be crazy. You're laughing already. You know,
We're going to throw you out.
Right. Matt says I'm going to get a Rascal or a Jazzy. So it's like, maybe I'll get a custom made Jazzy to drive around the office. I don't know what kind of weird like title they'll give me to let me stay, but it'll probably be like Chief Branding Officer or something stupid like that. You know, like Marky Mark has for a 45.
That's right.
They'll do something like that for me. But I hope to keep working. And I would like to, my number one objective is something that you mentioned earlier. It's really important to me. Like, I'm not leaving for the foreseeable future because I love what we do. If we did take on a round of operational capital, it would be simply to put fuel on the fire. It wouldn't be to like cash out and go to the beach, because that's not in my DNA anyway, because I love what I do.
Right.
So really, like, my main job, because people ask, what are you main focus? Like, what are you most worried about? Or what keeps you up at night is a question that I get asked. I think it's a good question, but a lot of people have asked me that. Like, hey, Rick, what keeps you up at night? And these are from candidates, right? And I'm like, you know what keeps me up is that as we grow quickly, that I run out of runway personally, you know, for my skill set to be able to keep the culture together. That's the only thing that gives, and I hope that people hear, because I'm paranoid about it, I'm working really hard to make sure it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not blind to it. Like, oh, we'll be fine. We just hire whoever. It's like, no, you've said this before. I mean, it's a precarious thing to go out and hire, like, you know, a PE firm comes in, they give you some money and they're like, we got a perfect guy, and they want to place their CFO in there or COO. They got this big company experience. It doesn't mean it's good, right?
Yeah.
Like, we got here because we're who we are. So keeping that intact while scaling and hiring really talented people, it's not going to be easy, but that's my main objective. So if you say, what's my main role here at these stages, is to bring on the right people and to keep the culture intact while we scale really quickly. And that includes if we bring on an investment group into the mix, they need to also fit our culture, right? Yeah. And that means like what's best for franchisees is honestly what I'm thinking. Like would our franchise partners approve of these folks? And, it's not like I'm dumb and I've made plenty of money. So it's, again, it's not going to materially change my life, but it is how you keep score as an adult. So it's kind of fun to get that high valuation. But I don't want to do any of it if I can't keep the culture together, have fun while we're doing it, and not burn franchisees in the process.
Yeah, it's the same way we have our Z's treat their customers, right? Them in mind. That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, and we talk about it often. It's sometimes a similar customer avatar, right? For our franchisee, age bracket wise, socioeconomic income, all that is the same as like the consumer of an Alloy personal training facility. And I think we understand the psychology of that customer really well. And so I think we know what to do to make them happy and keep them happy. And if I can't do it that way, I really just don't want to do it. It's not in line with who we are. You wouldn't want to be part of that company. Nobody on our team would. So it's my main objective as we grow, whether it's a financial partner or whether it's, again, bringing on high-level people to the team, maybe one and the same, that we can keep our culture together through all of that, which it's no easy task. It's not lost on me. That's going to be very difficult at scale. But I'm up for it. And if I'm not, I'll be happy to bring in somebody else that can do it, right? Because that's the next question. It's like, Rick, what if you get hit by a bus? I'm like, well, you'd be surprised to know I'm the dumbest guy on the team that I don't really do that much. Like when I'm at the office, everyone asks me to leave so they can get their work done, right? So it's like the real things being done are by this dude sitting next to me or a real estate team or like all the people in our company are doing the actual work. They're making the donuts. I'm just out here talking about them. So if I got hit by a bus, pretty sure a beat would go on. And like there's been enough, like a guy like you move up eventually into like a C-suite position. You know the culture. You've been here, 15 years? You pick it out right away. It would be zero trouble for you to step into my shoes, look at those new these partnerships or whatever and be like, this is not our group or this is a good fit, right? So if I do get hit by a bus, and I do like to do like skydiving and motorcycle racing and stuff, so like it's possible. I might be more at risk than others, but we have key man insurance, so like we can afford to replace me if we need to with whether it be Matt or whoever, right, moves into that position. So anyway, I hope that helps you guys. We do get a lot of questions about where you headed and the big concerns. Can you support me? Will you ever sell? What does that really mean? And then like, what if you get hit by a bus? What happens? And I hope that answers those questions. Is there anything that I left out that you can think of?
No, that's great. Covers it.
Does it? I don't think you and I have ever had this discussion. So
no,
probably part and parcel, but not like this like in its entirety, right?
Yeah, no, I think this is great. I think this will help a lot of people.
Cool. All right. Well, good. And good job on your did you know. You're doing well with that. I want you to know that your small contribution to the podcast, as small as it may be, it's still important. And I see you, Matt. I see you.
Thank you.
All right. Peace.